You know what? You're a crappy manager. Oh yeah? You're a employee. Oddly enough, this is not how you want to deal with conflict at work. Pay attention, we're getting into it. Welcome to the channel Leadership with Mike. On this channel, I help new managers become better leaders, and I do that with no nonsense sense, if that makes any sense. So a question came to me based on another video that I did, and the person asked, how do I deal with conflict as a manager, and how do I deal with the anxiety that it gives me? I'm betting this person's not alone. Now first, let's get into some basics. Listen, we're getting to be a pretty big channel. We're getting a lot of your questions, and I love it. But I need to be honest with you, I cannot get to all of them all the time. I try my best. But if you want to stand out, if you want questions answered, consider becoming a member. Members get priority sequence. It's easier for me to filter through a click of the button and I see members' comments come to the top. So again, if you have questions you want answered, consider becoming a member. You don't have to be, and I definitely get through my comments, but I might miss it. That's all. Anyway, what are we going to do? First, let's understand this. Conflict is something that we have to deal with as a manager. You can avoid it when it's a small thing. You can avoid it as much as you want. But that is how you're building up anxiety. You're getting anxious because you know you're letting things go. You know that there's something that you need to address. And it's making you fill up with anxiety. I promise you this. If you start learning how to deal with conflict right away, in the proper manner, and you start getting comfortable with dealing with conflict, anxiety disappears. Yeah, you might be getting the sweaty palms or a little bit nervous how an employee is going to react to this conflict, but you are going to become more comfortable in your own skin, knowing that doing the right thing is always the right thing, and knowing that you are a firm but fair leader. So how are we going to deal with conflicts? How do we move to where we get resolution and we don't have to be anxious about this? We don't have to be so worked up because at the end of the day, listen, I don't get along with everybody, and surprisingly enough, some people don't get along with me. But when we're at work, we have to make things work. So this is what we're going to do. First of all, try not to be biased. Now, how do we do that? First, you need to know who you are. You need to know what your likes are, what your dislikes are. You need to know if this person really gets under your skin because you don't like them or you're picking on them and you are perhaps making them uncomfortable. This is something, I'm not saying that's what's happening, but you have to be aware. You have to have the self-awareness to try to see, am I doing something to bring this on? And with the hopes that you are not, now let's try not to be biased against this person. Let's try to let bygones be bygones. If you've had troubles in the past, if you know of other employees that have had troubles in the past, try not to bring those to this meeting. Try not to bring those to this resolution. That's your first step. Next, this one I find hard sometimes. You need to be an active listener. Now, I've discussed it plenty of times in my videos, but being an active listener means we're not coming up with a story in our head. Because listen, you're already in conflict. So you don't want to build up this thing by, oh, well, Joe did this, so that means that this is what was supposed to happen, and this is why they tried to put me like this. That's not what it means. In your head, that's what it means. You need to sit back and actively listen to what Joe has an issue with, or why there was a disagreement, or why there was a misunderstanding. Don't come up with the story in your head. Allow them to explain their side, their vision, their version, whatever we want to call it. And while we're actively listening, you're not picking up your phone and scrolling anything. You're not on your computer looking for documentation. You're actively listening. Okay? Did you listen to that? Actively listen. Are we clear? This one is not natural for a lot of people. It's not natural for everybody. Then again, what is? Practice empathy. Listen, let's say Joe, he's the problem. And he's your arch nemesis. He didn't want you to get the promotion. He's been trying to sink your ship. You need to practice empathy. Try to understand why Joe is feeling this way. Why Joe would be trying to undermine you if he is. What is going on in Joe's life? You're not a therapist. But we can practice empathy. We can try to understand. Doing this is the quickest, bestest way to build trust. Listen, Joe might have a shit ton of stuff going on at home and it's not going right. Joe maybe needed the promotion that you got because he needed the extra couple bucks an hour or he needed to become on salary. It's not your fault, of course, but take the time and try to understand why we may have a conflict with Joe. You're not at fault. But maybe the story in Joe's head puts you as the villain. So practice empathy. Just try. Next, we need to focus on the behavior. You can't go and try to resolve this problem and say, Joe, you are always late. Joe, you don't respect my time. Joe, that is not going to help anybody. If anything, it's going to get Joe's back up and he's going to say, well, you, Miss or Mr. Manager, you did this wrong and you're just like that. Clearly, that is not going to help. What we need to do is say, the behavior of coming in late is unacceptable. The behavior of talking to somebody like this in that manner with that language is unacceptable. The behavior. We want to take it away from the person. We're not attacking Joe, even if he is a jerk. It could be, but we don't want to attack Joe. We want to focus on the behavior coming from Joe. Joe really could be a swell guy, but his behavior is not as swell. Here's the other thing you need to pay attention to. If you've had this discussion, you've tried the conflict resolution that Mr. Mike has tried to share with you, and it's not working. You've got your notes. You've tried everything. You may have to resort to bringing in HR with the hopes that they are going to be an impartial judge. They are going to be open to actively listening to both of you, to discarding their own biases that they may have, being empathetic when listening to both of your stories, while also focusing on behavior. You see the pattern here? They're going to do what you tried to do, but the problem may be that you're too close to the situation, that you can't disconnect from your biases or try to hear Joe out. Maybe you really can't stand him and you can't be empathetic. He's a miserable prick. Listen, you're a human. It's not okay to say in front of Joe, but it's okay to feel. It happens. I would be lying to say that I liked everybody that I've been in contact with. So sometimes we need to bring HR in, and you need to be self-aware enough to say, I can't do this one. This is one I need help. And there's nothing wrong with asking HR for help. If you don't have an HR department, maybe you need to discuss this with a manager who's one step above you, or you need to bring in a separate manager who is an equal, but with the hopes that they will also understand they need to be unbiased. So I hope that answers the question. Again, if you have questions, I will try my best to get to them. If you want to guarantee that, become a member today. You just have to hit the little join button and we go from there. So I'm going to grab my coffee. I'm lying. Today it's not a coffee. Today it's a beer. What can I tell you? Let's get into the next video and don't judge. Ciao.